What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin with Jake. We're doing another weekly recap. Hope you all are doing well. NFL preseason is underway. First week of the preseason was this week. Last week we had the Hall of Fame game, and then we had the preseason rugby kicking to second gear. This week started on Thursday. We had a bunch of games Friday, bunch of games yesterday, and we got one more game today. We had some guys who stood out. Obviously, not a ton of stars were even playing. And the ones who did played no more than probably the first quarter, if that. It's preseason. If I was a coach, I'm not even sure I would play my stars. Maybe certain younger guys who are improving. Maybe I would play them a little bit. But especially the first game, probably don't to play him too much. And like I got like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, a star like that. I don't even see why you play him, to be honest. We had interesting in the Tennessee Titans game. Of course, they drafted Malik Willis in the third round this year. This guy we expect to be a first round pick, possibly a very high pick, ended up slipping to the third round. Of course, there's only one quarterback taken in the first round, so that was Kenny Pickett by the Steelers. We'll get to him in a little bit. But Malik Willis played pretty well. He looked pretty good. From what I saw, I like what I saw. He'll be the backup to Ryan Tannehill this year, but I heard he's probably going to redshirt, so he probably won't see the rugby at all this year once Ryan Tannehill gets hurt. But they're hoping, next year he'll take over as the starting quarterback for the Titans. He played pretty well. Was 6 of 11 for 107 yards. Did not throw a touchdown. Did not turn the ball over. He had a quarterback rating of 88.1, which is pretty good. And he had a very nice rushing touchdown. But he was actually pulled because he was running too much. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel told the media, this is his quote, "I wanted him to throw the ball. He didn't, so he put Logan in." He was referring to Logan Woodside, their third-string quarterback, who's the quarterback who relieved Mike Willis. Ryan Tannehill did not play in the game. So that's interesting, because he was running a lot, and he can make plays with his legs. I don't really have a problem with that at all. I mean, first of all, Malik Willis has the strongest arm in the draft coming out. That's why people, were so infatuated with him. This is, a draft, when it comes to quarterbacks. That was not very impressive. The last couple of years we've had a lot of guys who were ready right away. We had the draft of Burrow and Tua and Herbert, and then you had the year afterwards you had Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and all those guys. And then this year, the quarterback draft was not quite as talented. The only guy who went in the first round was Kenny Pickett, and he might I'm sure he's gonna be the backup. So he might be the third string behind not only Mr. Trubisky, but also Mason Rudolph. And both those guys are not any good. The other guys, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, all these guys were, third, fourth, and fifth round draft picks. They probably won't see the field until at least next year. At least that's probably going to be the case with Malik Willis. But he can make play with his legs. The reason that a lot of people thought he might be the first quarterback off the board because he has the strongest arm in this draft. So maybe we're able to want to, kind of see what this kid has got with his, with his big arm. And now he's just running. He's like, dude, we drafted you because we really like your arm strength. I mean, yes, we like your running, but we really love your arm strength. Also, didn't want to get him hurt. And God forbid Ryan Tannehill goes down, the kid's probably gonna have to be rushed in there. And my guess is the plan is week 1, 2023. I think the plan is for their starter to be Malik Willis. So decided, these guys are running too much. Let's pull him. I mean, he played a good amount. I mean, he threw. He had 11 pass attempts. He had a bunch of rushes. He played a good amount. He looked pretty good, but I guess my friend wanted him to learn. You gotta throw the ball. We gotta keep you healthy. And obviously, as I said, he's got an incredible arm. So the other youngsters, Kenny Pickett played pretty well. He had a couple touchdown drives. He had 2 touchdowns. He played pretty well. My favorite team, the New York Jets, had some unfortunate injury news. in like the second, like the first, like the second play of 11-11 drills in training camp. Their offensive tackle, who's now going to be their right tackle, opposed to being a left tackle, which he was his first 2 years in the league when he was on the field. That is, Mekhi Becton limped up the practice field. His what they thought was a precautionary MRI came back a lot worse than expected. He has a very major knee injury, and he's probably going to miss the entire season. Looks like another first round bust by the Jets. 11th pick in 2019. His rookie year played well, but also missed a few games of injuries. Was nicked up throughout the year. Last year played just one game. He tore his ACL in the first game of the season. Was expected to miss about 4 to 6 weeks. But then he had a couple setbacks. I heard some rumors that he got a little overweight, and also the guy's gigantic. He came to the NFL like 340 or something, or 360 something pounds. But that he used that to his advantage. He's also 6'8", 6'9". He's an offensive lineman. He came into the league as a left tackle. Of course, he was going to be the right tackle this year. I mean, the guy ran like a 4.8 or a 5.2 40 at that size is incredible. People saw him run that. People were like, "Whoa, that's something crazy." And then this year, there was some rumors going around that his heart's not really in it. I'm not sure if it was this during the off season or last year. He was, he missed a flight. I think he was supposed to go do something, and he didn't go because he missed a flight, and the Jets were not happy at all. Obviously, he got a little bit of a different regime, same GM, but a different coach. Robert Saleh is much more tougher than Adam Gase, who of course was horrible. Saleh, he's obviously more competent head coach, and he's a bit tougher. So he was kind of getting tired of him. So they moved him to the right side, probably because George Font played well left tackle last year. Probably because they want to take the pressure off. Becton coming off a major injury. He's short of out of shape at camp. He looked like he weighed probably 380, 385 pounds, which is at least 25, if not maybe close to 40 pounds over what he was when he first went in the league. I'm not trying to shame anybody for their weight. That's absolutely wrong, but the guy's a professional NFL player. He's got to be in shape. I mean, you get paid millions of dollars. The least he can do is, show up in shape and try your hardest. If your best isn't good enough, that's one thing. But if you're not best isn't good enough, well, that's not acceptable. Not in the NFL. They're saying he was throwing up on the field because the guy's out of shape, and they're in the 90-degree heat, and they're running all these drills. The guy just doesn't have the gas tank for it. And second play in 11-11 drills, he limps off the field, and he's probably done for the year. So that means he'll have basically missed the majority of 2 straight years. He'll have only played in 14 games in his first 3 years in the league. I don't know what else they can do for this kid. Honestly, I would just cut him. Admit he's a bust. We should have taken somebody else. Should have probably taken Tristan Wirfs, the right tackle for the Bucs, who's one of the best offensive tackles in the league already. This is only his 3rd year in the league. Maybe CeeDee Lamb, who could have been our top receiver. They definitely should have taken somebody else. I liked him coming out of college, coming out of Louisville, but the one concern that the scouts said was weight issues. He can get a little heavy. If he can keep his weight in check, the guy has a chance to be a freak. He's a mammoth man. The combination of size and speed we've never seen before at his position. Keep his weight in check, he's going to be great, but if not, he could be a problem, and look what happened. He hasn't been able to keep his weight in check in the NFL, and he's missed most of the games. He's only played 14 games in his career. He missed 16 games last year. I think he missed 3 in his rookie year. He's going to miss probably 17 more this year. So you do the math. I'm terrible at math, but that's 36 or 37 games missed his first 3 years in the league. I don't know what else they can do for him. Maybe next year you bring in somebody else and maybe you give him a shot to compete for a spot. If he looks different, maybe give him one last shot. Otherwise, his career of at least the Jets, looks like it's close to over. And of course, the starting quarterback Zach Wilson, he came out of the first preseason game with a knee injury. They said it's a bone bruise and a torn meniscus. He will have arthroscopic knee surgery. He's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, so he could miss the first game of the season, which is a shame for a young quarterback. Second overall pick just last year, but could have been worse. People thought it might have been a torn ACL. I'm happy it's only a slightly torn meniscus and a bone bruise. He'll only miss maybe the first game or two, post of the whole season. So, and then you have some depth. You have Mike White, who started a couple games last year. Of course, he had that one great game against the Bengals where he threw like 350 yards and like 3 touchdowns. People were wondering, this kid looked pretty good. The offense looked a lot better than with Wilson. Should we have this guy say the star? Then he got hurt in that one game. Then against the Bills, he went out and threw 4 interceptions. Then he got benched for Joe Flacco against Miami, and then Wilson came back. So they have Mike White, who did start 3 games last year. He played very well in the first game against the Bengals. You have Flacco, of course, who's played a lot of football, former Super Bowl MVP. Obviously, it's past his prime, but Flacco still thinks he can start in this league. Robert Saleh still thinks he can be a starter in this league. I don't think he's a starter anymore. I don't think a lot of people would agree with me, but that's what Joe Flacco thinks. So Saleh seems to like Flacco. I mean, the game against Miami, he went to Flacco over Mike White because Flacco's experience facing the kind of defense that Miami runs. Miami was still struggling at that point. I would have probably kept Mike White in because Mike White basically went from, wow, this kid's actually pretty good. Where do they get this kid from? Should Zach Wilson even get his job back when he comes back? To, all right, he's not even good enough to be he's good enough to be Joe Flacco's backup. So it seems like Sal favors Flacco a little more. Giving him that one start. Kind of hyping him up, saying, although he's obviously gonna be the backup, but he can't. I do believe he can still be a starter in this league. Kind of, agreeing with Flacco, who said the same thing. So it might be Flacco. I mean, they are playing the Ravens. I don't know. Obviously John Harbaugh was Joe Flacco's head coach, and John Harbaugh was the defensive mind. So maybe they think Flacco will kind of know how to beat their defense. So maybe they'll go with Flacco. We'll see. But Wilson out 2 to 4 weeks with the knee injury. Could have missed the first game. Some other NFL news. The Jets did sign a replacement for Mekhi Becton, and they signed Dwan Brown, a 5-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle with the Houston Texans, and most recently the Seattle Seahawks. He got a 2-year deal worth $22 million. For a guy who's 37 years old, probably a little bit of an overpay, but they really needed someone. They need to protect their young quarterback, Zach Wilson. Obviously, he's already hurt. He got hurt last year. He missed, I think, 4 games last year with an injury. He's already got hurt in preseason this year. He might miss the first week or 2 of the season. You got to keep him healthy. Brown, not what he once was, but he did make the Pro Bowl last year. He's still a pretty good player. Obviously, it's not going to be easy, signing a guy, first week of the preseason. He's got, 2 preseason games if they choose to play him. And then the season's going to start, so he's really going to hit the ground running. But he has been around for a long time. He has had a very good career. I think he can at least be serviceable starting as the starting offensive tackle. I wonder, because he's been a left tackle for most of his career. We'll keep him there and move Fall back to right tackle where he played for most of his career, but last year had to play left tackle because Becton was injured and played well. So they decided to keep him this year, and they were going to move Mekhi Becton to the right side, where he doesn't have a ton of experience at, and of course Becton ended up getting hurt, which is why they brought in Dwan Brown. Or will they keep Fall left tackle since they already said to him, you're going to be left tackle, and they'll put Dwan on the right side, which he hasn't played too much of his career, but he's also 37 years old. He's been to 5 Pro Bowls. I'm sure he can handle it. It is a difference playing left side and the right side. Your stance has got to be different. Obviously, left tackle, as long as you have a right-handed quarterback, which the only left-handed quarterback I believe that's in the league is Tua for the Miami Dolphins. Left tackle is his blind side, so he can't actually see the guy coming. So you really got to do a good job of blocking that guy. The right tackle, the right side, at least, right-handed quarterback can see the guy coming. So it's a little less important, still very important. Offensive line, I think, is the most important position in the NFL besides the quarterback. So they put him, but I do like them picking him up. He's still a pretty good player. You know, you have him for this year at a based on what he's done in his career and the kind of player he is, a reasonable rate around 11 million probably is the AAV this year. And then if he plays well, you'll make a decision. Do can he do it again at age 38 next year? Do we get Beckham another shot? Do we bring in somebody else in the draft, a free agency, or a trade? If he struggles, then maybe you move on, and then you get back to them one more chance, and maybe bring somebody else in. But they got a guy in there. Owen, I just don't think it's great. But I think it'll be better than it's been the last couple of years. He signed Lakin Tomlinson, who's a really good guard, who used to play in this offense in San Francisco. Vera Tucker, your other guard you drafted last year. I like. Font's a good player. Conor McGovern's not great as your center, but Brown's pretty good too. So the line should be a little bit better, hopefully. Won't talk about the New England Patriots. So their offensive coordinator for the last 10 years, Josh McDaniels, left to be the head coach of Las Vegas Raiders this offseason. And the Patriots, with only a couple of weeks to go into the regular season, preseason's already underway, they have not named an offensive coordinator. So they have Matt Patricia, who of course was their defensive coordinator for a while, after a terrible stint as the head coach of the Detroit Lions last year, returned to the Patriots as a defensive assistant. They have him, I believe, like the wide receivers coach or something, and Joe Judge, who is the special teams coordinator for the Patriots and thrived in that role. Of course, had a very rough 2 years as a head coach of the Giants, was fired after last year, and in the offseason, Belichick brought him back, but this time to be the quarterback's coach, which is interesting. So early on in training camp, it appeared that Bill Belichick in practice in training camp was calling the plays. He was staying behind Mac Jones to be calling the plays. Then we heard that Joe Judge might be calling the plays, which I think is a little concerning considering the Giants had maybe the worst offense in the league when he was their head coach. Then we heard heading late in training camp, heading into preseason, that Matt Patricia was calling the plays, and Patricia, I believe he was like an offensive assistant or something his first with the Patriots back in 2004. But ever since then, he's been on the defensive side, defensive coordinator, of course, was head coach of the Lions for 2.5 years, which was terrible. And he was a defensive assistant last year with New England after being let go by Detroit. We're saying he's calling plays, which I don't think he's able to do. Supposedly in the first preseason game, they were both calling plays. Look, I know it's Belichick. He's probably the greatest head coach in the history of the NFL. He has 6 freaking Super Bowl rings. He even had 2 as a defensive coordinator of the Giants under Bill Parcells. They give him 8 total. Of course, 6 as a head coach with Tom Brady. I know he's a mastermind, and I don't really care if they give the guy a title. I mean, they really haven't given someone the title of defensive coordinator since Matt Patricia left that role. The 1 year Brian Flores was the defensive coordinator, when he was technically promoted from linebackers coach, he technically didn't actually have the title of defensive coordinator. He was still the linebackers coach. They said he's the defensive play caller. They didn't actually give him the defensive coordinator title. They said he's going to call plays, but he stayed in his role as linebackers coach still. And Steve Belichick, who's like the DB's coach, he's been the defensive play caller since Flores left. He went head coach in Miami. Of course, now he's unemployed. Excuse me, no, he got picked up by the Steelers. He's their outside linebackers coach or something like that. He's been the defensive play caller, but he hasn't actually gotten the title. So if I was a fan of the Patriots, or if I was a player on it, like their young quarterback Mac Jones, who played well as a rookie last year, I would at least want My concern is that it's not even the whole title. I mean, like I said, Steve Belichick's been their defensive coordinator in the last couple of years. He technically doesn't have the title. I don't think they officially gave him the title. They just said he's the defensive play caller, but he's staying in his role as the DB's coach. Kind of like I said, Brian Flores was the defensive play caller his 1 year. Last year he was there before he went to Miami, but he stayed in his role as the linebacker coach, and that's where you get the title. Just give someone the title of offensive play caller, even if you don't name them offensive coordinator, which they haven't done. And I don't know who they already have on their staff that is capable of doing that. So is Mac Jones. He's a young quarterback, first round draft pick last year. Kind of surprised people. People had some concerns with him. He played really well as a rookie. Was an offensive rookie of the year finalist. He worked really hard this offseason. He's in the best shape of his life. His leadership is much improved this offseason. Their weapons aren't fantastic, but they have a couple good receivers. Devontae Parker's pretty good. Jacoby Myers okay. Kendrick Warren's okay. Got a couple good tight ends. Some good running backs. A good offensive line. Obviously, you got Belichick there as your head coach. It's a team that can, get back to, can be in the playoffs again. Of course, is hoping to advance a little further after getting blown out in the first round last year. You have a young quarterback with as much potential as Mac Jones does, and he doesn't even know who's going to be calling the plays for him. 2 or 3 weeks before the regular season starts. I don't think that's a recipe for success at all. So I think it's a little bit concerning. And the Patriots fans I talk to really aren't worried, saying, "Oh, it's Belichick, it's Belichick." Like, I know it's Bill. He's great. I get it. If it was Tom Brady, I don't think this would be concerned at all. Like, it's Tom Brady. Like, Brady, if he wanted to, could call his own plays, and they would still be in the probably be in the Super Bowl. Because it's, a young, not quite, obviously not so proven quarterback in Mac Jones now, in the post-Brady era, it's a little different. He needs a little more help. So at least give him a standard play caller. Even if it's Matt Patricia, which if it is Matt Patricia, I apologize to Mac Jones because I think that's what he knows about offenses than Matt Patricia. But if that's what the thing is the best option, give someone a title of at least offensive play caller. They haven't done that yet, and we're a week into the preseason. That's a very interesting situation there. We'll see if they go. Will it be Patricia? Will it be Judge? Will it be someone else? Hal? Will it be Bill? I feel like it's just going to be Bill. I think Belichick might just do it himself. Who knows? Maybe they already know what they're not telling anybody. The Patriots, a lot of times don't like to release this stuff. Other teams, we would have found out probably, right after McDaniels left. Right after, if they had off the coordinator leave, right after he left, we would probably know, oh, they're going to hire this guy, or they're going to promote this guy. Maybe they already know, but they're just keeping it behind closed doors. You never know. But as far as everyone else, at least besides the Patriots, know that their play callers are possibly Joe Judge and or Matt Patricia, which I don't think either of those are good options. I'll take Joe Judge as a special teams coordinator. I'll take Matt Patricia as a defensive coordinator, but I will not take either as an offensive coordinator. We'll see what happens there. Talking about the Cleveland Browns, to Deshaun Watson, he issued an apology saying, "I apologize to the woman I affected." I thought it was kind of BS. I don't know why it took him so long. Clearly, he has not treated women properly over the last couple of years. I find it a little inconvenient, I guess, that his apology comes, right after the NFL is appealing his 6-game suspension to try to get it up to a full year. Well, why do you not issue the apology when the allegations came out last year and just, accepted, his wrongdoing? I'm hoping he gets the full year. I think he deserves it. I mean, can't give Calvin Ridley a full year for placing a legal bet on his own team while he was away from the team, battling mental health problems. Deshaun Watson, is accused of sexual misconduct with like 30 different women, and he gets half of what Ridley got. That just is not fair. So hopefully the NFL is able to make the right decision. I'm hearing that Jimmy Garoppolo could be an option for them. He has not been traded yet. Trey Lance, they already announced we will start for them this year. And there was rumors, the speculation, could they go after him? And now they are, originally they were saying, they would not pursue him, and now they're saying if Watson gets a full year, they may call 49ers and may be interested in trading for him. Which I think they probably should. This is outside the quarterback, they have a really good team. They got the best run game in the NFL with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Not Kareem Hunt requested the trade, but right on the Browns, I'm not going to trade him, so he's still there. They got a great offensive line, one of the league's best offensive lines. You got some good receivers. You bring in Amari Cooper, who's a great player. You got Rashard Higgins, who's pretty good. You got some good tight ends with David Njoku and Harrison Bryant. You got a pretty good defense with Myles Garrett on that D line. Denzel Ward in the secondary. You got a pretty good defense. Pretty good talented coaching staff led by head coach Kevin Stefanski, who was head coach of the year 2 years ago. They have a good team. And if, now going from Deshaun Watson went on the field, and last time we saw him 2 years ago was the top 5 quarterback in the game, star in the making, and to Jacoby Brissett, I don't think Jacoby Brissett is getting into the playoffs. That being said, Jimmy Garoppolo with these pieces might be able to get you there. You might be able to get to 9-10 with Jimmy Garoppolo. Brissett, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do that. So they probably should look for an upgrade if possible. And James White, former Patriots running back, he has announced his retirement from the NFL. He had a nice career. He was a really good pass-catching running back for the Patriots. For a while, was very consistent. 3-time Super Bowl champion, of course, had that memorable game in the comeback win and Super Bowl in 2016. He had 14 catches. He had 3 touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime. That was a historic performance by James White. His retirement a few days ago. Moving on to the NHL, we got a couple of injury updates. Vegas Golden Knights starting goaltender Robin Leonard is out for the season with hip surgery. Vegas seems they've been on a downward spiral since they went to the Cup their first year. Every year, they've gotten worse and worse and worse, it seems. They've kind of, they've run up their team payroll. They've had to trade a lot of, top players, not really getting anything back for. I saw a stat, it was 6 or 7 of the quality players. Guys like Marc-Andre Fleury and other guys were on the list. The guys they trade away and the pieces they got back are not even on the team anymore. It's a little concerning. That's not really how you build a team, especially starting a team from scratch. An expansion team. I don't think that although the Seattle Kraken were terrible last year, I like their route a little bit better. You draft some more young, unproven players that who are on cheap deals and expensive. They're a little bit better player, but they're more expensive. And then just trade away all your draft picks for all these veteran players. Like Vegas did. Kraken, they brought in a bunch of young players via their expansion draft, and they used all the cap that they had because they had a lot because they didn't. Their team payroll was low because they didn't take on a lot of big contracts in the expansion draft. And they bring in, they brought in some nice free agents over the last 2 years. Philip Grubauer as their goalie. This year they brought in Andre Burakovsky and some other guys. So a lot of lining stuff for the year. Interesting to see what Vegas does. Do they make a trade for somebody? I don't know who could be available. I know he's got 5 years left on his contract, but will the Ducks move John Gibson? Who I think if you put a good defense in front of him, could be a pretty good goalie. We'll see if they make a move for another goalie, which I think they probably have to do, because if they don't have a good goalie, they might not. This is a team that came into the year. If they're healthy, with Bruce Cassidy as their head coach now, could be a cup contender. Now, without Leonard, that's gonna be tough to maintain that status. Another big injury: former Vegas Golden Knight player who they traded to the Carolina Hurricanes this offseason, Max Pacioretty, is going to be out 6 months after he had surgery. We're in August, so September, October, November, December, January, February, so he's going to be out for a while. September, October, November, December, January, February. All right, so he'll be out. He'll be out for possibly through the All-Star break, so he might be out half the year. That's a loss for Carolina, who brought him in to boost their score, which they clearly needed. We're second in the East last year, and they're losing the second round to the Rangers. Series, I'm a big Ranger fan. The Rangers won fair and square, but Carolina, on paper, sure won that series. And they didn't, because they didn't have enough firepower. And that's what they brought in Pacioretty, and now he's going to be out for possibly half the year. That's a big loss for them. Let's go over the MLB standings. American League Central, Guardians. The AL Central is a horrible division. Guardians now in first place in the division, a game and a half ahead of Minnesota. Only 7 games over 500, but it's good enough for first place in that crappy division. American League East, Yankees still up 10 games on Toronto despite their struggles. Astros up 12 games on Seattle. They continue to dominate. In National League Central, St. Louis leads Milwaukee by half a game. In the East, the Mets lead the Atlanta Braves by 5.5 games. National League West, Dodgers, 17-game lead on San Diego Padres. Wow. In the wild card race in the American League, the first wild card is the Toronto Blue Jays, who have a 2-game lead for that. The other 2 spots, it's Seattle, who's up a game and a half for that second spot, and the last part now is the Tampa Bay Rays. Baltimore Orioles are only a half game behind the Rays for that last spot. Twins are only a game out. White Sox are only 2 games out. Of course, Twins are only a game and a half, and White Sox are only 2.5 games out of their own division as well. And yet Boston are 4.5 out. I think the Orioles are only a half game out of a playoff spot, and they're 5 games over 500. That's crazy. National League, the first wild card remains the Atlanta Braves, who are up 5.5 games for that first spot. Second spot is actually the Philadelphia Phillies right now, who are playing well. Big game tonight for my Mets playing the Phillies. The rubber game, Phillies took the first one. They won 2-1 in 10 innings. Mets won 1-0 last night, so 2 low-scoring games. Had a lot of good pitching performances. No one all 8 innings that the Phillies were, when the Mets were hitting. Basically a complete game. 8 innings, a run, 4 hits, but DeGrom and the Mets were just a little bit better. Have a second spot in San Diego. They have the last, but they haven't, shot up what we thought they would with Soto, and we have to bring in Soto and all the guys they brought in. That being said, the only team that's really close to upending them is the Milwaukee Brewers, who are a game out, but they're also only a half game out of their own division. The next closest is the San Francisco Giants, who are 6.5 games out, and a game under 500. That's what we got for baseball. By the way, check out Edwin Diaz's Mets All-Star Closers entrance video. It's similar, when it comes to the iconic music. That's Mariano Rivera's Enter Sandman. It's gone viral. It's really cool. You should check it out. It's a lot of fun. We had the Padres, although they've had a lot of good news since trading on bringing all these players like Juan Soto and Josh Bell and Brandon Drury and Josh Hader. They got some bad news. Their star shortstop Fernando Tatis Jr., who has been out the entire season with a broken wrist because he fell off his motorcycle in the offseason. He was suspended 80 games for PEDs. He tested positive for close-to-ball, which is a banned steroid. He will begin serving right away. He will miss the rest of this season. I think he's gonna miss the first 32 games or something like that of next year. So he's probably down to at least probably May of 2023. And their general manager AJ Preller had enough of Tatis' antics, and he was very critical of Fernando Tatis. He said, "It's very disappointing. We have to learn from situations. We were hoping that from the offseason to now, there will be some maturity, and obviously with the news today, it's more of a pattern, and it's something that we've got to dig a bit more into." And then he went on. He talked about, how you think, they asked him, how you think Tatis goes. He says, "I'm sure he's very disappointed, but at the end of the day, if one thing to say it, you've got to start showing by your actions." And he says something along the lines of that they've never really had any trust, and then they need to kind of, gain some trust back. He's a guy who, he's had some maturity issues, he's had some things like, he doesn't play by the unwritten rules. He'll swing 3-0, with an 8 or 9 run lead. He'll steal a base with a, up 10-2, which I personally don't really care about, but, some guys don't like that. And first of all, not only has he not played the entire game this season, he's been out with wrist surgery because he fell off his motorcycle this offseason. Also, he signed a 14-year contract worth $340 million last spring. The dude's like 22 or 20. He's 23 years old. And he has a 14-year contract worth $340 million. He's not supposed to, in the offseason, be riding his motorcycle, which we all know you could easily fall off and get very, very hurt. I know people who have fallen off their motorcycles and are paralyzed, not the same. And Tatis is lucky that he only had a broken wrist. It could have been a lot worse. So he should not have been riding his motorcycle. In his contract, it said, like, you're not supposed to do certain things. So he's not supposed to be riding his motorcycle. He should be, in the gym or in the batting cage or on a baseball field, getting ready for the season. Especially when you are the star of a playoff caliber team in the San Diego Padres. And this offseason, he decided, let's ride my freaking motorcycle. No, that is not the time to ride your motorcycle. It just is not. If you want to, just be a little careful. Drive it around the neighborhood. Don't be doing anything crazy. And now, while he's rehabbing from his injury, he was like a week or two away from coming back. He was, he had played like 4 rehab games in Double A already. Was probably going to come back maybe by like next weekend possibly or something. He tested positive for a banned substance to treat a ringworm. The dude's on a $340 million contract. He can afford the best doctors in the world. Just take an antibiotic. You don't need to take a banned substance for that. You can get rid of an antibiotic. The GM was just tired of it. He's like, all right. So he's like, thinking, dude, since I've given you $340 million, last year, although you had a great year, you were an MVP finalist. You had some injuries, which which cost San Diego. You had the argument with Manny Machado. Which showed that the manager Jace Tingler, who was their manager last year, had kind of lost the locker room. San Diego fell apart down the front, and then missing the playoffs, and then they fired Tingler after the season. Of course, bringing in Bob Melvin, who's done a very good job. Who's a very good manager. You break your wrist falling off your motorcycle, which you should not have been doing. You should have been practicing baseball, not riding your stupid motorcycle in the off season. You dum. You take forever to get back. He was expected to come back in like June, later than July. It's August 14th, and he just started a rehab assignment. And now you get suspended for 80 games, testing positive for a banned substance to treat a ringworm, which you could easily treat with a simple antibiotic. So I'm with AJ Preller, the GM. Tatis is young and stupid and immature, and he's got to do better. He's got to do better. A lot of times, the players kind of stand with the guy, like, oh man, it's a shame. Manny Machado kind of said, like, it's a shame he's not going to be able to help us, kind of thing. But a lot of the players were not happy with him. All these guys, like Juan Soto and all these other guys, I heard a lot of the players were not happy with him. Like, dude, like when you're on the field, you're one of the most talented players in the league. But you can't just be making these stupid brain dead errors. So my master plan, Tatis, be better and be more of a role model. You're only getting paid $340 million to do so. Some other MLB news: the Rockies called up a 31-year-old rookie, which is very cool. You saw the video of him, the interview right after he found out the news. He's been in the minor leagues for 10 years, 10 or 11 years. He was like crying, saying, I prayed something good would happen, and it finally happened. He had a hit in his first career at bat. So that was cool to see. So that was a good move by the Colorado Rockies. And the Detroit Tigers fired their general manager, Al Avila. I think it was the right move. He's not done a good job. He was there 7 years, but I don't think they ever made the playoffs under him. He did a terrible job this offseason, signing Hyderabad for $140 million. He's been horrible. Giving Eduardo Rodriguez $77 million. He's been terrible. Trading for Russell Meadows. He hasn't been very good. He has not done a good enough job. They were expected to take a step forward, maybe make the playoffs this year, be competitive, and they're the worst, and they're in the last place in the division, and now the rebuild continues. So he needs to go, and he's gone. As for the NBA, Kevin Durant, I want to talk about. So he reiterated that he still wants to be traded, and he gave them that's an ultimatum. You either have to keep me and fire your head coach Steve Nash and general manager Steve Marks, or keep them or trade me. You cannot keep both. If I'm the Nets owner, Joe Tsai, I would tell him to shut up. Like, Kevin Durant, you're a player. You do not have control. You cannot fire the coach and the GM. Here, look, I don't think Steve Nash is a very good coach, and I think by next year he could be out of a job. Sean Marks, I mean, this whole thing, making the sign Durant and Kyrie, he got them to come there, but the Harden trade was a disaster. Trading away all of his young pieces and all of his reps to get Harden was a disaster, and when he traded him away, he gets back, Seth Curry, who's decent role player. Yeah, by Andre Drummond, who I don't think is I'm not even sure he's on a team anymore. You pick Ben Simmons, who's obviously a dumpster fire, and 2 first rounders. So really, Seth Curry and 2 first rounders, basically, which is not enough for a guy like James Harden. I can see him being out of a job in a year or two. I don't think he's done a good enough job there either. He had something working, and then he let Durant and Kyrie get to his head after he brought him in. He kind of let them boss him around, and he fired Kenny Atkinson, bringing in Steve Nash, which I is definitely a downgrade at the head coach position. Made the whole Harden thing. Just he's as much as a good job he did building that team, getting all the young pieces, and making the big move to get Durant and Kyrie in free agency. He's screwed it up even faster than he did bringing it together. By just trading away all their pieces and draft picks for one guy who you trade a year later for a lot less than when he gave up for him. But Kevin Durant doesn't have a right to choose who gets fired and who stays and goes. That's for Sean Marks and for Joe Tsai to do. And I'm so tired of him. I hope he gets traded as soon as he just shuts up. By the way, opening night in the NBA will be Lakers and Warriors on October 18th. The Warriors will get their championship rings, and the Warriors are going to play the Memphis Grizzlies in a rematch of the Western Conference semifinals on Christmas. Of course, there's been a lot of chatter going back and forth, a lot of trash talking between those two teams ever since the postseason. So that'll be interesting. I'm hearing we might get Lakers and Mavs on Christmas. That's a rumor, though it's not finalized yet, so we'll see where that goes. And Bill Russell, of course, recently passed away a couple weeks ago. One of the greatest players in the NBA history. 11 NBA championships. Pioneer in the game of basketball. His number 6 will be retired by every single NBA team. So, very good gesture by the NBA. Don't have too much else. We got some miscellaneous stuff. Michigan State basketball coach Tom Izzo, one of the best college basketball coaches in the business, got a 5-year extension worth $6.2 million a year. Based on how many years he already left on his contract, he basically is going to be the head coach there for as long as he wants to be. And Serena Williams, maybe the greatest tennis player ever, of course, 23 Grand Slams. That is the second most besides Margaret Court, who has 24. She's going to be retiring soon. She did not specify when, but based on her statement, it looks like it might be after the U.S. Open, which starts on August 29th. Now, she's much older now, isn't the same player. She hasn't won a major in a few years. Of course, she's got a couple kids now. I've never been a huge fan of her. I think she's been a sore loser, but I do respect her winning on the court. She is an incredible tennis player, maybe the greatest tennis player ever, and she has accomplished a lot in her career. So, kudos to a great career for Serena Williams, but the end of her career is approaching. Let's talk some wrestling on Monday Night Raw. Bobby Lashley defended his U.S. Championship against Ciampa, locked him in the Hurt Lock, and defeated him. And AJ Styles beat He just helped beat The Miz in a no disqualification match. After the match, there was a guy who was trying to hop over the barricade, and then the security took him away. It was a weird scene, and that man, and it was actually, he was not just some random fan. That was actually Dexter Lumis, who used to be, who was a former NXT star. So we'll see what happens with him. So he did make an appearance there. Six-woman tag team match was announced for Clash the Castle. It'll be Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and the Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair against Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai. And then there's a Women's Tag Team Championship tournament. Of course, the last Women's Tag Team Champions, Sasha Banks and Naomi, walked out on the company. Triple H is trying to get them to come back, but we'll see. So far, Io Sky and Dakota Kai, they beat Tamina and Dana Brooke in the first round, so they advance. We had Seth Rollins defeat Angelo Dawkins. He hit him with a pedigree. And then he hit a stomp on Dawkins before Montez Ford can come out and save. Montez Ford had been thrown out from ringside earlier in the match, so that's why he wasn't there. And Kevin Owens powerbomb Ezekiel onto the ring apron, and then Ezekiel was taken away on a stretcher. Finn Balor defeated Rey Mysterio. Of course, Dominic Mysterio was supposed to be out there, but Edge tried to apologize to him for accidentally spearing him last week, and Dominic got really pissed off and shoved him and stormed off. And he got discouraged. Edge came to ringside to try to help out, but it was too little, too late. Omos in a 2-on-1 handicap match defeated a couple of goofballs. That was pretty quick. And Dolph Ziggler defeated Chad Gable. So we'll see what happens next week with Dexter Lumis. We'll see what that storyline brings us. But that was Raw. Friday Night SmackDown. We had, obviously the fallout from Drew McIntyre and the Karrion Kross thing. Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss, they teamed up and beat the Usos, who are the undisputed tag team champions. We had another match with the women's tag team championship tournament. Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah defeated Xia Li and Shotzi. So they move on. The Viking Raiders beat the crap out of Kofi Kingston. Next week is going to be like a New Day funeral or something with the Viking Raiders. We'll see what that will be. And Hit Row is back. If you didn't know, now you know. They beat Brandon Scott and Trevor Irving. The stable is BFAB, which is their hype woman, and you have Top Dolph, the big guy, and Ashante The Adonis is the other guy. So they were cut late last year, but Triple H brought them back. Kudos to him. Give that group a chance because they're a very exciting group. And then you had Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler signed their contract. Before that, it was Ronda Rousey cutting a promo. She wasn't supposed to be there because she was suspended. And security came out and she beat up that one security guard, and then they escorted her out. And then Shayna Baszler came out and was like, "What are you doing? You got to play by the rules. I tell you get respect." And then she goes, "Play by the rules." She goes, "Shayna Baszler, you used to be a killer." In a very interesting situation there. And then Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler were going at it. They signed their contract. Then Shayna Baszler started being at Liv Morgan, targeting her in her arm, but then Liv Morgan bulldog Shayna Baszler through the table. And then Los Lotharios, Angel Garza, and Humberto Correa picked themselves to Maxwell Male Models during a photo shoot. We'll see where that goes. And Happy Corbin attacked Ricochet backstage when he was being interviewed. And then NXT's Lions and Stark, who are going to be in the tag team tournament for the Women's Championships, they introduced themselves to the WWE Universe. Was that? And then Gunther in the main event defended his Intercontinental Championship against Shinsuke Nakamura. He in a very good match, but he remained Intercontinental Champion. That's all I got for you guys today. I have an announcement. Next Sunday will be the last weekly recap. For the next week after that, I'll be doing it Monday through Thursday. Not this upcoming week that starts tomorrow, but the following week. Monday through Thursday, I plan to do my podcast. One of those days, I'm going to do an NFL team by team preview. So, like my next weekly recap will be, of course, a week from today. On August 21st, that will be the last one. August 22nd is a Monday. I will bet this podcast, Talk Sports with Jake, you'll get that podcast that day. NFL preview will not be that day. I do not know what day it will be. Sometime during that week, but it will not be. I will tell you, it will not be that day, the 22nd. So probably sometime 23rd, 24th, or 25th. Probably one of those days. But I'll announce that on either on the final weekly recap next Sunday or the day afterwards. One of those days I will be. You most likely will get that announcement. And I'm gonna be. You can find me. I'm gonna do a fantasy football kind of thing on September 4th. I'll get you all some more details next week on that. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, so long and have a great day.